think the number of participants is still growing, so let's wait for another minute or so.
Read my mind.
We're always on the same page. Well, I think the number is looking a bit stabilized. Maybe we should get started. Greetings, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. Today's iGuide webinar. I'm Xiaowen Wang at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. I'm serving as the director and the principal investigator for iGuide. For those of you who are not familiar with iGuide, iGuide is a national center funded by the U.S. National Science Foundation. We're focusing our efforts on harnessing the geospatial data revolution for tackling a variety of sustainability and resilience challenges across a number of geospatial scales. Today, it's my great honor and pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Nadine Alame, who's the CEO and president of the Open Geospatial Consortium, OGC. She's responsible for creating and integrating the strategic direction and business plans of OGC in partnership with the board members and the staff of OGC. Dr. Alame is a really well-known, seasoned leader in the tech and the business industry with a focused commitment to interoperable information exchange, technology, and process innovation. Prior to her current OGC roles, she had served OGC as a director and then executive director of OGC's Interoperability program, leading initiatives in various domains, including, for example, Earth observation, aviation, public safety, and defense. And in addition to her leadership roles in OGC, she has been in a variety of industries, of course, always focused on geospatial challenges and innovation and problems. She led multiple small business startups, as well as worked for some big companies. In the interest of time, I will not be going into the details of her distinguished career and accomplishments. Dr. Alame is a graduate of MIT with the PhD in Computer and Information Systems Engineering and Master's in Civil and Environmental Engineering and Master's in City Planning, all of her degrees with the focus and specialization in Geographic Information System, GIS. And without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Alame to our webinar, and her talk title today is The Growing Challenge of Geospatial Interoperability from the Real World to the Metaverse. Very exciting and timely topic today. And for those of you who are here, if you want to ask questions, please use our Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom screen. And also feel free to type your thoughts and notes into the chat box. Without further ado, please, Nadine, take it over. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Xiaowen, for this warm introduction. I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm very happy about the partnership between OGC and iGuide, and I'm happy to see Dr. Josh Lieberman on the attendee list as he's representing OGC and the iGuide activities. I'm also very happy, if I'm not crazy, I also see Dr. Joseph Ferreira, and he's the reason I'm here. So you talk about all the work that was done at MIT. So it's Joe, 100%. So this is, you know, I didn't expect this, but this is an amazing opportunity for me to say thank you for everything that you've done, for me and for all the other students who were hungry to learn about geospatial information and GIS. So for everybody on the line, you never know how your path's gonna cross. So this is really just the highlight of my day, to be honest, Joanne. So thank you. I think before I have a PowerPoint that I'll go through, I'm pretty sure it's a lot already. But before I start, it would be good for me to understand or to know more about who's with us on the line, who's taking time out of their busy day to actually be with us here today to better understand the challenges of geospatial interoperability and try to help us overcome those challenges. So if you share with me who you are, I'll tell you who I am. So that would be the deal. Before I tell you anything, you have to tell me something first. So I'm gonna share a quick question here. And if you have access to a laptop or to your phone, if you can please fill out this quick thing about who you are. And you can say, I'm a geek, I'm a software developer, I'm a GIS, holic, geoholic, I'm a climatologist, I'm an urban planner, I'm a transportation, I love climate. I mean, you can say anything. It would be good to understand, and hopefully we can start to see some of what your, who your peers are, I think, in this webinar. So can you see the question? Tell me who you are, and you have the Mentimeter. So I like what I see already. I really love the mix when people mix geospatial and spatial and location. It's all coming together very quickly. I like the nerds. Go nerds. We have users, we have economists, we have local people, we have remote sensing people, educators, students, data specialists, data scientists, managers, and we can see now like hydrology. I see what else? Climate, trade, environmental justice. That is so cool. And novice, thank you for being here, novice students. This is amazing. You're the future. Pointy head, guru, cyber GIS. This is fantastic. Spatialogist. I haven't heard that one before. So that's good. I can share this, but this is really great. So we have an amazing mix, essentially. We're not all nerds. We're coupled with the application people, we're coupled with the experts and with the novices and everything in between. And we won't be anywhere without the cat herders and the managers. So looks like we have a great group here, Joanne. So I say let's get to it. So I'm gonna stop sharing this screen, and if you can, let me see how I can stop sharing this, and I want to share my PowerPoint. Deal? Deal. So if I share my PowerPoint, let me know if you can see my PowerPoint. Yes? All right.
Looking perfect.
So I loved learning who you are, and I'll have a couple more questions for you later. So here's who I am, so you can see where I'm coming from, because eventually it's all about us people. You know, the challenges, maybe the challenges of the world, of our environment, of our planet, of our universe, but the solutions are all us. I grew up in Beirut, Lebanon, and I went to the American University of Beirut, and I was I think very fortunate to be one of the top students who were selected to go to MIT, and that's how I got to work under Joe Ferreira. So the ticket to MIT was like a ticket to Disneyland, Disney World, for geeks. It's a great place. And it was eye-opening because I went to the urban planning department. And so this was a degree in city planning. And then very, very quickly, this is in the 1990s, very quickly realized the power of GIS, because all of a sudden you're talking to transportation engineers, you're talking to environmental engineers, you're talking to the computer science department, because a lot of us databases and parallelization and these days cloud, this is all, you know, in the computer science and the computing. Of course, urban planners. So all of a sudden, I think GIS became really just a gateway to so many other communities that could use, you know, this technology essentially. The most amazing thing is that it was the early days of web services, right? So this was when OGC was developing the web map service, the WMS. And by the way, the OGC website, so I was digging yesterday, the WMS remains the most queried standard in geospatial, right? And OGC is celebrating 30 years next year. So imagine the power, simple idea, right? Let's get some data layered, right? In a geospatial context. The simplicity, I think, of that standard is what opened the doors to so many of us. So including when we realized that the WMS was also used in the rescue efforts, 9/11. So 9/11, right, September 11 in the US was a major turning point for interoperability, major turning point, because you have to get data from multiple sources. Every piece of data is different, metadata is different, formats were different. So you see the driver. So I was, again, fortunate to be indirectly involved, right? Because they use some of our web services that we developed at MIT, some of our client software. And for those of you who are immigrants to the US, this is how I got my citizenship in the US, because it was, you know, the geospatial contribution to rescue efforts is something of national interest. And I go back, I say all of this is because I think today, between climate and national security and food security, these are all issues of national security, whichever country you're from. They're issues of global security, and you are at the center of it. So amazing, right, to know that what we are doing, right, actually has impact. So much impact on everybody. So I think that's maybe point number one. I ended up getting to NASA, to the Goddard Space Flight Center here in the Washington, DC area. And no surprise, I ended up in this group called the Geoscience Interoperability Office, because NASA has all this data. A lot of people use this data and you don't want to give it to them one by one. So once again, can you guess what we use to make all this data discoverable and available? The OGC web services. So we used, in that case, the web coverage service, because that's, you know, the complex 3D 4-dimensional data. Fascinating. Through all of that, you know, you can see it's been like OGC, OGC, OGC. Then I said, I think that was like 2015, I said, you know what? I've seen everything in geospatial. I want to do something new. let's start a business. So I started a business in air traffic management. It was the information management of air traffic information, right? Thinking, wow, I'm doing something totally new. And can you take a guess what it ended up all being about? Let me tell you. Airport maps, weather information, weather forecasts, which is the biggest disruptor of aviation. It's all geospatial, right? You want to take the flight plans, the flight routing, the flight rerouting, geospatial, geospatial, geospatial. So you're like, wow. I think once you see geospatial and you appreciate it, you actually see it everywhere. And I think now, finally, in 2023, it's not just us seeing things everywhere, geospatial. I think everybody is. So we are cursed, my friends. We see geospatial everywhere, but that's our power. I generally think that's the uniqueness about this community. That's why, you know, initiatives like iGuide are so important, because the world is realizing what they could do with geospatial, and you could do, right? We are the missing link for so many things, which is fascinating. So I hope I'm not the only crazy one. Do you see geospatial too everywhere? I really hope so. So I think I feel so lucky. I hope you do too. I feel so grateful because we live in these unbelievable times. I mean, you look at this, I hope the video is coming through, but data is easier to collect than ever. This is a little piece from AGI, it's on YouTube. 27% of these commercial satellites here building around the Earth are collecting Earth observation information. Seriously, that's a lot of data, right? And this is not just the NASA and the NOAA and the European Space Agency or the Japanese or the Canadian space agencies. This is now commercial. That's what's been happening the last 3 years, the booming of space, which is bringing booming and geospatial. If you check these numbers out, this is, forget about space, here on Earth, Internet of Things, smart cities, connected cars, drones, smart agriculture. And again, there are many statistics, but this is a snippet. Look at this jump between 2013 and I think 2020 here. We had actually an event recently in OGC on ethics in geospatial, because location, right? Location tracking and privacy and ethics. But what resonated with me a lot is they started the whole event by saying, we are living in an age of datafication. Also a new word for me. As in, everything you touch is turning into data these days. It's turning into data that can be harvested and can be linked to space and time. That's, again, geospatial. So I know you know all of this, which is amazing. So data is easier to collect. It's easier to scale, right? My kids are so lucky. They're growing up in this world of, you know, cloud computing as a default. You know how amazing this is? We have edge computing these days. We have artificial intelligence, machine learning. We're applying all of that to our data. It's easier to interact with the geospatial data or geospatially referenced data in, you know, more tools than ever, including what I call the simple visualization tools. So you don't need a GIS package. Yes, everything can now ingest geospatial. And we're blurring, I like this, we're blurring the line between real data and synthetic data these days. And I'll show you some examples a little bit more, but I'll show you some AR, VR, Metaverse, because yes, again, my friends, we are going to be critical, right, to the success and the usability and the sustainability of whatever the Metaverse will end up being. I'll get to that. I like this a lot. So this is a quick video from one of the OGC members, Hexagon. And I find this amazing. Think about this. We are the geospatial people, right? We're able to extract features from space, Earth observation, right? Buildings, trees. And then it's not the Xbox or, you know, PS5, Spider-Man thing. These are the real features with the real data that we can link to them, right? And we can mesh this data with elevation data. Say you bring it from USGS, the 3D program. And this is not Hollywood. This is real. We can forecast, simulate weather, winds between or buildings in cities, right? We are able to do all of this and so much more because we're able to process geospatial information, but more importantly, we're able to integrate data and then visualize it. And I think that's the power of geospatial. As people, as you professionals, you know who you are, is this power of integrating data and making sense of it is super, super exciting. So this is a snippet of what gets me excited. I would love to hear what gets you excited, because you must be excited. You're spending an hour with us. So if you can go back to that Menti. So let me share my other screen right here. And let me see what excites you. Please tell me, right? So what excites me is this power, is the metaverse, it's the digital twins, it's the space, it's the Internet of Things, it's everything that we can do. What excites you the most about geospatial? And I think, let me see, this is gonna be everywhere. And it doesn't have to be just technology, right? I mean, again, you see the perspective because I'm a technical person. I see these things. I mean, I took my kids to Disney World a couple of weeks ago, and all I was pointing to them is the engineering of this ride and the engineering of that ride. So you don't have to stick to technology and engineering. It could be application. It could be, honestly, sometimes just your emotions. I like the connecting of the data. I think we've got that power, which is amazing. Understanding what's where, the water, the mobility, ooh, right? 3D visualization, the real world solutions, the ubiquity of geospatial, big time. I love the ubiquity of geospatial. You know why it's ubiquitous? Because of people like you. Because it's ubiquitous doesn't mean it's easy, but I think it's us, the geospatial people, who make it easy for everybody else. The global solution, love it. Maps, urban modeling, data accessibility, digital twin, human wayfinding, enabling others, love that. Geospatial fusion power, perspective, 3D planning, water, places, amazing, right? So this is really, really exciting. You know, this is amazing, but there's always a but, right? So it keeps coming, but I'm gonna move to the next question actually. And I'll tell you the but, you know, because we live in amazing times, but also we have many, many, many issues. And maybe you can share with me what's the biggest challenge of our time. And it could be, again, technical, science, application, human. Ouch, distrust. Yes, communication. I think it's one of our main issues actually in geospatial. The validation, I think, goes back to the trust, the privacy, uncertainty, data management, interoperability, availability, consistency, all of it, yes. Fragmentation, wow. I wish we were in person. I want to pick your brains. This is better than my presentation, so keep going. Ethics, yes. Inequity, sustainability, yes. And accessibility. So all of this, again, I really think this is also one of our powers as geospatial people, because we have this, we're in this field where you can look at a broad range of applications. It's multidisciplinary just by its very, being, right? And that's what makes you sort of like, you can take a step back and you can see where these themes are bubbling up. And sometimes it's painful, to be honest, that, I think I really feel sometimes, and this is a feeling, so it's not a statement, it's a feeling, that as geospatial people, sometimes we're ahead of the curve because we see things before others. We see the patterns. And I don't mean just by the data, but also the applications and the use of the technology everywhere. So this is fantastic. And again, I'll share all of that with you. So let me go back and tell you what I put in my presentation. And so we can maybe compare notes. Yes. So if I go back and I say I want to share my screen. So it started with everything is great, but there are issues. I have many issues, but I'm going to pinpoint a few here. Could you please tell me, right, how we're getting to Mars, and we have a helicopter on Mars, right, that we were able to control, and we were able to get videos and the robot and all of this. But here on this Earth, right, we still have floods that kill people, that destroy towns. We have droughts, we have wildfires. And I'm not saying like in certain underprivileged areas of the world. This is everywhere. This is Europe. This is Canada. This is Pakistan. This is Turkey. This is everywhere. And then you look at these numbers, and this is, again, there are many numbers, but this is from the National Weather Service. From the 1990s, right, 55 events in 10 years versus 90 events in the last 5 years at double the cost. Just process this for a little bit. This trend is not good. That's the simple observation. So we live in amazing times and technology and everything, but then these curves, right, from climate.gov are just alarming. All the curves are in the wrong direction. It's more greenhouse gases and less Arctic sea ice, and more carbon dioxide and less mountain glaciers. And I can't go on. And I'll show you something even closer to us. That's what, Josh Lieberman is working on, in parallel here. How come, could you please tell me, it's 2023, and how come we still dig in the wrong places on our streets, even in the most sophisticated places in this world? And in this case, there are examples from London, from Singapore, from New York, examples of, outages and wasted, in this case, what is it, like 1.8 million liters of water waste and billions in cost, or blah, 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 because underground data is really a mess and we're not mapping it and tracking it correctly, right? If we're so amazing, don't you think we can do better? I really think we can do better. I think one of our problems is that this amazing data that we just talked about is actually really, really not findable when you need to find it. It's not accessible easily as the way we really want it to be. It's not interoperable. and it's not reusable. It is reusable, but it's by reinventing the wheel sometimes. And I think this FAIR, that's why you hear a lot about FAIR these days: findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. That's how it became at the heart of the OGC mission recently. And that's what we're trying to, I think, get from this amazing collective knowledge of the geospatial community, right? How do we get from that to accelerated impacts? So I love this like, these are tidbits from the new website of OGC. So OGC has a new website if you haven't checked it out. But this, if it can be this one place where we can all put our heads together to solve these problems with the power of, you know, there's the partnership and the capacity building and the standards, right? And the innovation and all of that. That's why the partnership with iGuide just makes a lot of sense, right? I'm very happy actually that OGC is at its largest because we're not crazy, right? None of us here on the line. Everybody's realizing the power of geospatial. They want to connect with people like you. They have a lot of questions. There's a lot of innovation from everywhere, a lot of data. So we, you know, the world needs this center of expertise in a way. And what's fascinating to me is OGC has been, I said we're celebrating 30 years. You're all invited to a big party next year. But OGC has been for 25 years, third government, right? Your NASA, your DHS, your ESA, etc., USGF, third academia, a lot of universities, third industry, right? You know, the Google, the Apple, the Microsoft, the Esri, the Hexagon, Trimble, TomTom, you know, I can list them all, right? 5 years ago, things have started to shift. And now today, we have about 42% of industry, right? So there's more industry out there. You know why? Because I think we're getting to a place where other people can build upon these technologies that we're developing, right? We're growing the market, which is, again, fascinating. So I really, really, really like this. I think going back to one of our challenges and sort of like, I'm trying to communicate to you the shift in thinking that we're all experiencing as geospatial people, but especially at OGC, is we've been for the longest time talking about what we do. Geospatial does this, geospatial does that. Did you see what geospatial did? All about the what. Standards are amazing, etc. And I think what we are here today, and the major shift is that we are going back to the basics. We have to refocus on why we're doing what we're doing, right? Why are we doing what we're doing? And I think our power, which is, you know, you showed it already under who you are and what you're excited about. Our power is that we are interdisciplinary, we are collaborative, and we've always existed to solve other people's problems. Think about it. That's why I started with my experience at MIT. You know, here I was learning about a technology to find out that it's actually a technology that helps so many people solve their problems. And we are so good at solving problems together, right? Again, iGuide is a great example because nobody can do it alone. It's just too big. There are too many pieces of expertise, right? So we have to shift to the why. And the why, I'll give you some examples in OGC, for example. And I hope if you're following OGC these days, you'll hear this shift, I think, in the messaging. I hope you hear us talk more about, you know, developing disaster readiness guides, for example. Let's put our heads together such that when there's a flood, we know from A to Z what needs to be done, right? Disaster readiness guide. That's what we did with the sponsorship of USGS, Natural Resources Canada, NASA, and others, right? let's get, I think Josh is on the line and he can answer all these questions if they come up, but let's get from data to analysis-ready data. I think we're all hearing about analysis-ready data these days, to decision-ready information. Let's stop reinventing the wheel. Every time there's oh my God, where should I get the data? Do you know anybody? I mean, literally, they call us. Do you know somebody who has building footprints for Turkey? It's like, enough, let's make this data findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable, analysis ready, decision ready, right? That's why you hear us talk a lot about climate. You know, climate is like the use case for interoperability, because good luck having everything that it takes. So what we're trying to do, at least from the OGC perspective, is like, imagine if we just defined those building blocks such that people can mix and match and actually do their own thing, understanding climate or resilience or adaptation or whatever it is, right? Impacts on the local, the global, et cetera, et cetera. This is like the building blocks, because you need to bring the Earth observation, you need to bring the archived weather data, you need to bring the in situ data, you need to bring socioeconomic data, numerical data, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So can we just have the building blocks so that we're not all talking about the fundamentals? Again, that's our why. Again, not as OGC, as geospatial people. And the more I learn and the more I live, I think, in the OGC world, the more I learn about like the missed opportunities. In this case, I'm learning about the marine because we have, so Singapore Land Authority and the Marine and Port Authority and Natural Resources Canada are sponsoring this federated Marine Spatial Data Infrastructure pilot, which sounds great. And then I'm like, catching up on what it involves, and wow, I had no idea. If there's an oil spill somewhere in the ocean, right, apparently we have evolved into distinct silos. The marine community has their data and their standards and their ways of describing them, and the land people, right, they have their thing. And you have the air, right? And then this part of the coast, right? Which is shared, right? Which, what is it? What did they say? 70% of us live near a coast or would be affected by something. It's like, wow, we need to bridge this. And that's why I like, wow, I'm learning about this now, but it's so powerful, right? Because this is truly bridging two communities at an area that impacts each and every one of us. You know, with a sea level rise, you need to do this. This is an interoperability challenge that I cannot believe we're only solving today in 2023. But hey, we're doing this, right? And you'll never get to climate anything if you don't link these two communities. And imagine how many other communities there are. So I can keep going on. I think one of our things that we're changing in our heads also is the who. So we said it's not the what, it's the why. If we talk about the who, I think we have evolved into saying, you know, geospatial can solve these problems, etc. I think we can do better by saying we can help everyone and anyone solve their problems using geospatial. It's very subtle, but it's super, super important because it shifts our focus, right? And within the OGC, for example, it shifts our focus from we're going to do all of this to we're going to help other people, which means we are lowering the barriers for everybody. We're empowering everybody to be able to look at their data from a geospatial lens so that they too can see geospatial everywhere. So this is not about standards. This is another aha moment. It's not just about standards. Standards are nothing if we also don't share our best practices. If we don't share these readiness guides of how we use the standards in specific domains, in specific situations. Standards are nothing if there aren't resources for the developers, you know, so that's why it's great to see the novices joining us here because they need the resources, not just the documents. Standards are nothing without the linking between them. That's the definition server. We can talk about it at some other point. But we need, I think the main message is standards are super important, but it's the ecosystem around them that's equally important. And here's what's also fascinating me these days, that we started with standards, right, for web services and GML, right? That's like the 1990s. And now we're talking APIs. Now we're talking cloud native geospatial standards, right? Cloud native geotiff, cloud native point cloud, cloud native tabular vector information. That's the GeoParquet, FlatBuff, GeoBuff, and all of that. And take that up, right? We were talking 2D, now it's 3D big time, right? 3D tiling, 3D portrayal, GeoVolumes APIs, and this is just from the OGC lens, right? Take this one step further. It's all great if we have the APIs, but actually the interoperability needs to happen, you know, like the marine part. We need to bridge these models. We need to have these models. So it's big time. What is it? A city model, an indoor model, an infrastructure model, a pipeline model, a water model, soil model, etc., etc. That's you guys, right? That's not me. That's all you. And you take this even up. It's not the data. It's not the models. Give me the analysis-ready data, the data quality, the fit for use, the sensors, the connected systems. Now we're branding them as connected systems, sensors everywhere, digital twins, and so on. So I can really go on, but let me just hit, because we have a few minutes left, the new frontiers in geospatial. There are many, but in my head, I see these frontiers as not geospatial pushing something. I see other communities coming, knocking on the geospatial door, right, and saying, can you please help me, right? You seem to understand the patterns for location. Can you help me in my AI, right? You seem to know how to track things in the real world. Can you track things in the metaverse? You seem to know how to do things on Earth. Can you do it for the moon? Can you do it for the sun? Can you do it for the universe? It's mind-blowing. And it's just, again, you talk about exciting. So let me show you, because it's easier. These are all examples from some of the OGC members. So operational, right? Not making them up, not Hollywood. This is, for example, from Cesium, the power of taking data, real data, right? And then developing new applications. In this case, they're just like, you know, you hand glide over any mountain, you know, in this world for real. You give it the weather, you know, parameters, and off you go. None of this is fake except you, right? This is amazing. Again, I'll share this presentation so you can, you know, watch the whole videos. This is another example from Esri where this is the extended reality. That's where geospatial is just pushing. It's not just geospatial anymore. So in this case, oh, we want to do, you know, land use planning. We live in the city almost, right? So they have this, you know, product called, or project, it's Urban XR. So this is Boston, interestingly. So hello to everybody, you know, joining us from Boston. But same thing, it's like, let's select a plan. These are the real buildings, yeah? With their real characteristics. And when you change things, everything changes. That's why when we talk about digital twin, it's so powerful, right? And you just see what happens. You can even see things happening at a building level. Oh, what if I change the zoning, right? It's not just like a simple map. And again, here, you can watch the video later, but even if you pick a building and you want to place that building, or you want to architect the building, that's why we're talking a lot these days about GeoBIM, right? This linkage between geospatial and the building information model and the construction energy. You see why? Because it makes a lot of sense, because we're ready. This is another interesting thing. This is from an OGC company called Presages. They have this product. So this is, it's like you're layering things on top of each other. Everything that you see is GeoAI, right? It's AI based on Earth observation and other data. And then you can include, in this case, the tracking of real vehicles. Again, when we talk digital twins, that's what we mean. We geospatial people, that's again my point here, this linking between the digital and the physical world to make real decisions. Ambulance, go here. Save these lives. Reroute here. Is so powerful, and it's all geospatial. And these are, by the way, all on YouTube, and you can look at them. One last example, again, mind-blowing to me. So this is by OGC members, so AWS, and a small startup in OGC called Duality Robotics. And this is using a new product, I think, by AWS called SimWeaver. But the power of this, again, this is not Spider-Man on PS5. This is the real data, okay? Real data, real traffic. And now I'm adding simulation of people at scale, at city scale. So we want to talk disaster response, emergency response, public safety, underground. We've got, how it's like we're putting all these pieces together for the public good. Unbelievable. This is just for fun, but it's actually not for fun at all. So I kicked off the OGC member meeting in Singapore, I think in October. This is me. This is me and digital reality products. What's fascinating about this is me and everything you see on the screen in terms of features, right? The fire hydrants, the pole is real. It's real data. It has the attributes. It knows I'm behind it. I'm in front of it. I'm under it. I'm interacting with it. And again, this is where we are in 2023. And this cannot happen without bringing a lot of data together, right? So emphasizing, right, the interoperability and fun and in reality. So the last example here, because I truly believe it's your next frontier, that's space, right? So we have testbed 19 right now, which has a lot of topics. I'll tell you a little bit more. But there's this whole thing about space, right? So they're coming to the geospatial experts to help them with coordinate reference systems for space, mapping celestial bodies, imaging celestial bodies, tracking, right? PNT, right? Positioning, navigation, space objects from a celestial body, space objects from a space object. Because you're the experts, you can do this because you figured it out for Earth. And it's the easiest thing to do, to come to the experts that have done it and showed that it worked, right? For disasters, for climate. So as I said, this is a tiny bit of testbed 19. So many thanks for everybody who contributes, research, innovation, ideas, because that's what our testbeds are for. Thank you for, I think, all the sponsors in this case, from NGA and from Natural Resources Canada and NASA and Department of Homeland Security and USGS and the UK Defence Science Technology Labs and UKHO. I mean, I can name some amazing sponsors of this work. Take a look, because this is the future. This is seeing the future. It's not just APIs. It's not just cloud native geospatial. You gotta still work on the metadata. Sorry, guys. Geodata cubes, analysis ready data, deep learning, machine learning, training data, model driven, federated cloud, security, privacy. I mean, again, open science, really big for research. So my last slide is, I'm here, and I hope you're here because we cannot do it alone. Nobody can. And I think the core is still missing, right? There has to be a foundation, because if this data and this information and these tools and processes and this knowledge is not findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, it's impossible. So we need the standards, we need the best practices, we need your success stories, we need the technical resources. That's all great, but we also need collaboration. We also need the partnerships. We also need education. That's a big topic. for another day, right? The capacity building, the training of the workforce training of the next generation. And it's not magic, sorry. Interoperability is not magic. Collaboration is not magic. And I think sometimes people think it is. It's an investment. You have to invest to make things connect. You have to invest in collaborating. And you want to ask me about one of our challenges? It's this not thinking about this as an investment. We need to invest to get to everything that I showed you: operational, at scale, sustainable, solving real problems. So I'm here because of the collaboration. I hope to see you at the OGC member meeting. We get together 3 times a year. It's coming up in Huntsville, Alabama. You can have more information here on the slide. Connect with me, with Shawan, with Josh Lieberman. We're always here to help, to connect, to collaborate, because without collaboration, there's just no interoperability. So does that, maybe I can end it here, Shawan, and then we can answer some questions.
Yeah, many thanks for this so inspiring talk, Nadim. I think it's a good point to pause a little bit here. And we have, I think, several questions from the Q&A. I'm wondering whether you could see the questions. If not, I'd be happy to read it for you.
Yeah, I just looking.
Okay. Yeah, I think some really good questions there for you.
Yes. So let me start with the easy one. So David Tarboton, sorry if I'm misspelling the name. Thank you. So the question is, this is all great. It's my, you know, I love this question. It's all great, but how? Yeah. So the question is, how is someone to learn what's needed to contribute? What is OGC doing to make its standards and this technology developing of advancing accessible to non-experts like students? I cannot tell you how spot on this question is, right? Because we need to, this is part of like the technical part. We're lowering the barriers. We're creating the developer resources. We have now a website. Part of our website is dedicated to developer resources. So you can go find code, find explanation. We're on Discord right now. You know, my kids would think we're super cool. But we're on Discord and there are mentor channels. We have these sprints where we assign you a mentor that can work with you. And again, like I said, the member meetings are good. Eventually it's about the people, right? So you have to connect with somebody. That's how we learn. That's the best way, right? Because you learn with somebody. And students. So we need you guys to be more involved. So when I started at OGC, I started this diversity, right? This diversity theme. We start every member meeting with a fireside chat with a leader, a woman leader, right? And we have a breakout every time to talk about, you know, inclusion and diversity. So at our Frascati member meeting, we had that. And you know what the overwhelming feedback from the room was? We want experience diversity. We want, I don't know if I can say this, age diversity, right? And this led to the university working group at OGC. We need to talk a little bit more about what can this group of amazing universities do together, right, to help themselves and others. We're launching an OGC Academy, so you'll start to hear about it. But again, it's your contributions, right? OGC is this is gonna sound horrible, but it's just a platform. It's just a forum for all of this. You have to do it. And then together we share it with the world and we make an impact. So I hope that helps a little bit, David. Malicious use, malicious use of these new technologies, locate homeless people. Oh, yes. I mean, that's why I'm very passionate about this initiative called Ethical Geo, right? I think it was started by AGS, the American Geographic Society, and they launched the Locust Charter. And the whole idea is the responsible use of this power of geospatial. W3C also has guidance on the responsible use of geographic information, because yes, it can be used maliciously. So there's an awareness campaign. I think the Locust Charter is part of it. There's now this whole, I mean, between that and the AI and the open AI, right? It's like all these guidelines, the ethics, you need to train people on ethics. And we were even thinking at some point, OGC has this architecture board that oversees, you know, all the standards that are happening and how they work together, and whether there's some criteria or guidance at the standard level where we can say, beware, this could be used, you know, for harmful reasons, right? So I think this is a huge question, anonymous, but it's a great question. The last one, let me see. Pertaining individual outdoor mobility major evangelists for a better understanding and greater appreciation of the power of spatial data and analysis. What is your perspective in regard of data availability, standards, and related major issue in regard to indoor environments? Does indoor navigation remain too niche to be considered worthwhile of a widely adopted standard? That's an amazingly well-written question, Martin. And a huge topic. So all I can share with, it's a big topic, right? Because just a tidbit of information, Apple joined OGC because of the indoor, right? So think about it, because they essentially gave OGC this community standard called IMDb, which is the Indoor Mapping Database format, or IMDF. But the whole idea is, you know, we're going to eventually map the indoors of the schools, of the airports, of the warehouses, of government buildings. And I mean, even somebody like Apple to scale at the global level, right, still needs an international, you know, consensus-based open standard. So I think that part is a very positive thing. I think in places like, you know, like Dubai or Saudi Arabia, where the indoor is huge because the weather is harsh. Canada, or, you know, somewhere in the north, same thing. Indoor is super important. Plus, for public safety, right? Again, emergency response. We had this, I know I have 1 minute, but we had this project with actually the city of St. Louis on the smart reference architecture, smart city reference architecture. But the idea is eventually, before the firefighter goes into the building, you also, you know, who's in the building, how many people does each conference room hold, was it reserved that day, right? How can I evacuate these people? I know where the stairs are. I can send drones and robots, right? So all of that, you're gonna need the data for indoor, and you're gonna need the sensor that goes with it. So I hope that answers it a little bit. These are big, big questions. These are research topics, so good stuff.
Yeah, I think wonderful answers. Nadine, you addressed them all. It doesn't not appear to have more questions from the Q&A. I would further reinforce the comment, Nadine, you made. There are a variety of ways folks could engage with OGC. For instance, for the universities communities, the membership for a university to participate in OGC is a very modest annual fee. For instance, my university is a member of OGC, and for academic folks, I think is very straightforward to contribute and to participate. I'm very excited to hear about the idea of OGC Academy. I think that will be a much even broader channel for the academic community to contribute to the common interest of the geospatial community. And this is a very timely addressing the workforce challenges you discussed about. So I completely agree with you, exciting times.
Exciting times and a lot of work ahead. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
on all of us.
That's right. Well, for all of us here, please join me again in thanking Dr. Nadine Alamey for this very inspiring and wonderful webinar. And I hope you all stay tuned. iGuide webinar series is one each month featuring such timely and critical topics as well as frontiers in our related fields. And go to our website, iguide.io, to sign up for our newsletter and alerts, and stay tuned. And thank you all again for your participation today. And thanks, Nadine, so much again for this wonderful, fantastic presentation.
Thank you for the invitation and for your leadership, Sean. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.